We are live, 20 minutes late. This is Emil Fisher with another episode of the BCTL podcast. With me today, I have the revered, beloved Lance King. For anybody that doesn't know who's tuned in today, Lance is a fairly prolific power metal and prog metal singer. Who also owns a record label and somehow still finds time to practice Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the Minnesota MMA Academy. Is that what it's called?
Now it's called the Academy. It used to be the Minnesota Martial Arts Academy. Yeah.
Minnesota. Okay, there you go.
They rebranded.
We actually had your instructor on here the other day.
Which one?
With, what's his name? Eric Paulson. We had
Eric Paulson. Yeah, Eric Paulson used to train with Greg Nelson, my guru. He's the one that started the school. Greg did.
Yeah.
He's had Eric come in many times for training in services or whatever you want to call them, I guess, special training weekends and things. But yeah, Eric's awesome.
For sure, man. I mean, it's amazing the interconnectedness of the martial arts world as well as the metal world, really. Like, I feel like the two have a lot of similarities.
Yeah, I guess.
By the way, I just sent you via Facebook Messenger. I sent you a link to this. If you don't mind just sharing it when we talk here, if you're able to multitask like that. I know the technology has been quite difficult today for both of us.
Well, that's something easy. I like clipping and pasting links. That's a nice, easy thing to do. Should I be doing that on the official page or should I be doing that on my personal page?
I mean, whatever you want, man. The thing is that we want to get people listening. We want to get people tuning in, because the whole point here is we're giving people access to somebody they may not get to talk to usually. That's the whole kind of effort with these podcasts. The idea is that I bring people on that I think have something interesting to share with people. Like, they have something of value. Like, I'm having musicians coming on. I'm having content creators, artists. We're in such a negative time right now. There's so much negativity on the internet. I feel like, as much as I like to troll people and throw nonsense out into the world, I also like to bring some positivity into it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's always the challenge. Oh, that's pretty cool. It puts a preview up there and everything.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's I really like this program, StreamYard. I actually learned about it from my buddy Josh Leduc. He's been doing these for a little bit longer than me, and he's actually going to be winding it down now that his state is unlocking things. He's able to get back to doing his normal routine.
Uh-huh.
But for me, it's like I'm still waiting. I know that there's so much uncertainty here, but I figure things are opening up right now, and a bunch of people might wind up getting sick, or they might not. We'll see. And I don't want to be one of those people. I don't want to kind of get caught in the whirlwind of it.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, nobody really does. And as a vocalist, I certainly don't want to get sick again. I had something that kicked my ass most of February, and I'm not positive it was COVID, but it could have been. I didn't go in. Nobody was really talking about it at that time. You know what I mean? It came like a couple weeks after that, and then everything was like, wow, shut down, boom. But
how has it been in your area?
Not bad. I guess that depends on what specifically you mean by how's it been. Our governor is being extremely careful, more careful than most, and we have pretty reasonably low numbers. But all of the states surrounding Minnesota are open now, and some of them never closed. like South Dakota didn't close, but North Dakota's open, Iowa's open, Wisconsin's now open. Wisconsin had only 300 and some deaths, and Minnesota's had about 608-ish now. And most of those, were in facilities, older people facilities, assisted living situations. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that I think it's a troublesome situation. Regardless, I don't particularly want to talk about it that much. So you've sung for a bunch of bands. Like you've done a lot. You've done work with Pyramaze, Balance of Power, Avian. You've had your own solo work. I know you've done some other work with some other bands.
Yeah, I mean, I started in the 80s with a band called Gemini. Well, actually, there was a band before that, but played with a band before that for 5 years, clubbing from Michigan to Idaho. And then I joined a band called Gemini, and we played for, 6 years together and wrote a couple albums. And then, it's like there's this, I don't even know what you call it. It's like after 6 years, maybe call it the 6-year itch or whatever, but shit just seems to fall apart with bands. It's like drama and egos, or just people, one person, you lose one person, you got to replace them, you lose another. You see, it's just this constant revolving door. Sometimes it gets to a point where you're like, well, I think this isn't fun anymore. I want to do something that's fun. So you move on to some other thing that's fresh, and like there's a honeymoon period, and it's exciting to, make music, kind of like, group sex.
I don't know where that came from. What would you say was the highest point of your musical career? Because I feel like, you're still making music, but you were far more active about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Than you are at this moment.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Thus far in your musical career, what was like the high point? Did you ever have like a hit that came out? Did you
I
ever
imagine it was probably around between 1998 and Balance of Power, and when I left Pyramaze, probably 2007. That window right there was probably the most prolific, because I did a bunch of side things in that time frame too. Shining Star in Brazil, and Avian's first album, and and three albums with Balance of Power and 2 albums with Pyramaze, and so I was doing a lot of stuff. I also did an album with Lars Erik Mattsson, who owns Lion Music, and what else? I've guessed on a bunch of different stuff with Mysteria, and I don't know. When you run a record company, you have a lot of opportunities, I guess, is what it is, And so I started the record company kind of to help make contacts in the business, and then it became the main thing. It was supposed to be the sideline, and then it became the main thing, and it did much better than I expected it to. And, my career got sidelined, and I got to a point where I was okay with that. And then I wasn't anymore. Now I'd much rather just do music and say, screw the record business, record company business, and just worry about my own music sales, etc. Because there's just too much to do these days,
I mean, you
to
still
try
got
to
it.
sell music these days is really challenging.
Yeah,
it is. It's crazy to try and make a living at this thing called music. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
You still got it. Like, your new material is really fucking good, and I saw you play live at Prog Power a few years back, and you still got it. So you could theoretically
Yeah, I mean,
what
I'm
is it?
planning on it. I've got a band together, and nobody really knows this, but we've been rehearsing my original material until this COVID thing hit, and then we're not. But we are, real close to having a set together that's real tight. There's a few things to work on, like those massive walls of harmonies that I like to lay down.
Yeah.
We're still working on that stuff, but musically, the band is sound and tight, and I'm real happy about it. It took a long time to find the right guys in my area to be able to pull it off, to be honest, because I've been recording with international people that are exceptionally good, and it's nice to it's nice to have that freedom when you're writing, but then when you're trying to put it together for a live thing and you're working with guys that are all in different bands and they have priorities of their own, that's not it could fly for a one-off here and there, where maybe we could get a couple of them together on stage here and there, which I hope to be able to do. But yeah, as far as going out and actually touring the stuff, it'd be really difficult to get the guys on the album.
Yeah, I mean, it's your material's really good. Would you be touring under the moniker of like the Lance King Band or Lance King, or?
Oh, it's probably just be Lance King and the Machine, something like that.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed is that bands that carry the name of an individual versus bands that are just kind of like a band,
right,
with a generic name, it tends to be harder to market, at least from what I've seen.
I agree.
Have you seen that as well?
No, I agree. I think that solo projects, unless you've, had a hit and you're Richard Marx or something, or Bryan Adams, or, Sting, or, unless you're somebody that people already know your name, there's not really the association with what you've done in the past, I don't think. Although, a lot of people in the underground progressive power metal world know my name. That doesn't necessarily mean they have an association with what I've done.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly no joke, like the kind of rep that you have in progressive and power metal. Like,
right.
I don't know, I don't know how much of my fan base or people that are following me are aware of, the stuff that you've been involved in. The couple that do are big fans, but it's interesting because you've done so much and you've done so well as far as like the quality of the stuff you've put out. But
yeah, it's
I would
imagine
that you don't have paparazzi following you around.
Right. I'm kind of like the great unknown. The great unknown.
Why do you think it is that the music that you make, which is very listenable and very catchy, why do you think that it doesn't get more attention than it does?
Don't know. I just make music that I like, and I don't really question too much. I try to find my market. I've been learning a lot more about marketing in the last couple of years with my solo stuff. I thought I knew what I was doing, but the world changes every 24 hours pretty considerably with technology and such. So yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. Do you have any insights for me?
I mean, as far as marketing goes, I don't know how to market music.
Right.
Like that's just the honesty. Like I have no clue how one would go about making a band grow the way that I would love to see
right.
your music become better known. But I'll say this: you own a fucking record label, Huh?
Oh, it's all about whatever people glom onto. That's why record labels stop trying to predict and stop trying to make stars. Well, they don't. That's not true. They haven't. When you got a really big label, they have a lot more resources and they can make stars. For independent, like my label, a lot of smaller labels, they just put stuff out and see what takes off. There's some unknown X factor that makes a band successful, and who knows what it is. Sometimes there's just being able to connect with the people that are going to like what you do, what you're writing about, the kind of music you're doing. So, I mean, for me, I've kind of got a really strange amalgam in my shit. It's like, progressive, melodic, sci-fi, technological lyrics that also are neo-political and spiritual.
And rap.
All kind of thrown in this big freaking ball of, I don't know. It just kind of hits you upside the head.
Don't forget about the rap.
There ain't no rap in there, man. I don't like no fucking rap. I hate rap.
So your record label, I wanted to learn more about Nightmare Records. And I've had a lot of musicians on here. I haven't had anybody that's done what you've done as far as the music industry goes. How did you get started with Nightmare? What does Nightmare do? And what are some of the cool things you got to do with it?
Yeah, well, I'm always kind of been an I guess an entrepreneurial spirit. So if something's not going to just come to me, I'm going to make it happen, and I'm not going to wait around, and I'm not going to, shop endlessly to record companies. I'm just going to, do what I did with the first Gemini album. We're going to go into the studio and we're going to knock out songs. What we did is we'd write songs during the day because we were playing 5-6 nights a week. We knock out songs during the day in the clubs, rehearsing, and then we go in and record them on, we get a couple that we like, we try them out on the audiences, and then every month we'd save up a little money, we go in and we record them, and then after a year we'd have an album and we'd release it out, we call it out of the tailgate, but basically at the shows. And by the time that we had the product, we'd built the songs up to our fan base, who, we were playing to quite a few people at the time, which was nice. We'd, generally have 700 to 1,200 people at our shows in the late 80s and early 90s. So we had this built-in fan base that was hungry for this stuff. And they'd be right there with cash. And, we'd sell 150 discs a night. And, we blew out, 7,000-8,000 CDs of each album when we put it out just off the stage. So we didn't need a label to do that. We'd already built our audience. So what was the question again? Where was I going with that?
How did you start?
That's how I started Nightmare, though. So that's how I started Nightmare, because, basically Nightmare was a fictional logo on the back of our first CD. I had the art designer come up with a record label logo, and he's like, "What do you think of this? Kind of cool, 2 size, it looks metal." I'm like, "Yeah, all right, let's do it." And Nightmare was born. A fictional label on the back of a band's independent release. And then it became a real label when I started putting out other bands on it, which was around 95.
Now, what are some of the most commercially successful bands that you have had signed to your label?
Say that one more time. I didn't hear it clearly.
The most commercially successful bands.
Commercially successful. Oh.
That you've had.
In metal? Is there such a thing as commercially successful bands in metal? Unless you're talking about
Steel Panther.
That's not metal. That's not metal. Do they write anything, or do they just play covers?
I think they play covers, man.
They play covers, and they play with their dildos on stage and things like that.
Volbeat. Huh?
So what's that?
Volbeat.
Volbeat. I guess, yeah, they've been pretty commercially successful.
Trivium. Trivium kind of kills it lately.
Trivium. What about there's been a lot actually that have been commercial.
I mean, there's your other band, Dream Theater. They do pretty well.
Dream Theater. They're kind of the industry standard since 1991, for
Yeah.
progressive metal. I remember the first time I heard that stuff. We were coming back from a gig in Chicago, and some guy that saw us somewhere in Milwaukee or Chicago he was at this gas station, and he's like, "Dude, you gotta hear this. This is awesome." So I get in his car, and he's playing me Dream Theater. I'm like, "Yeah, this is awesome."
The 91 album was pretty good.
Yeah. Pull Me Under, he played me Pull Me Under, and that was the first time I'd heard Dream Theater. I was like, yeah, this is good shit. And I became a fan, bought the first album, and actually.
But you're saying that there are metal bands that are commercially successful.
What's that?
There are bands that are commercially successful. Have you had any bands that are commercially successful?
Nightmare? Yeah. Well, I'd say the closest was Prototype when they got on a Rock Band, or was it Guitar Hero? Guitar Hero's first CD, and they were kind of an unlockable track, and they'd sell like, I don't know, thousands every month, just to the one song, thousands, and it was weird, and it was the first taste of that, and then Mirath's been doing really well. Anubis Gate's been doing pretty good. Balance of Power, the band I was in, and Pure Maze, we did pretty well.
Is Pure Maze still signed to Nightmare?
No, Pure Maze, since they fired me back in 2007, we went our separate ways. I continued to pay them. Actually, you know what? I kept the band's albums on the label until just recently.
Okay.
For those albums that I was on, and now they've transferred rights over to the band's newer label that put the rest of their stuff out since, which is Alterium, or is it Inner Wound? It's one of those. They're brother sister labels owned by the same man, but I think it's Alterium, or maybe
Mirath is a really good band. Like, I really enjoy Mirath's live performances that I've seen at Prog Power. Yeah. As far as like a band that fucking brings it, they fucking bring it.
They really bring it, and they're just like so tight, and it's just they've got this vibe that they put off the stage musically and with their charisma, and just they play. You can tell they've played together a lot, and they're really, really comfortable. And they just lay it down. It's nice.
The impression they
got these really cool rhythms, with the drums and stuff. So in metal that has a groove, and they got the killer groove guitar riffs, and it's awesome for progressive metal. It's like progressive groove metal.
Yeah.
With Tunisian flair.
Are you listening to anything these days? Like, anything new that you've been jamming to?
Nope. I'm going retro. I've been listening to a lot of 70s shit.
Nice.
Yeah, I just, I kind of got bored with everyone being derivatives of everyone in the progressive metal world, and not hearing enough freshness. So I went back to my roots and started listening to the stuff that I grew up with that I really enjoyed. And so I've been finding new inspiration there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about your martial arts background, because you have been doing Muay Thai for quite a while now. You do some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you teach some Muay Thai as well. How did you get started with martial arts, and what are some of the things you got to do with that?
So, yeah. When was that? It was probably 1991 or 1993. There was a video store by my house that Greg Nelson's brother, owned, and it was literally like 2 blocks from my place, and I would rent videos there, and there was this little sign about that big on the door that talked about Jeet Kune Do and submission grappling and Muay Thai and Krabi Krabong and what else? Some other things that he mentioned, and it sounded cool. I'm like, wow. I was always a Bruce Lee fan, and I didn't start martial arts until I was 33, though, and I'd always wanted to do it. But I got into it and I fell in love with it, and it's badass. It's fun. It's hard as hell, but yet it's just this great aggressive outlet that's allows you to be creative and and have a non-boring workout. You know what I mean? Before that, I had been going to US Swim Fitness or Bally's or whatever it became, and lifting weights and doing the machines and doing aerobics with my girlfriend, and yeah, wasn't fun. Martial arts was this great fun to train, and you get a great workout. And Greg's first gym was pretty hardcore. Oh man, they were all fighters, and so when you went to train there, you trained like a fighter, and it was not just rough, but it was like the stamina that it took to keep up with these guys was really intense. And there was more than a few times that I go in and train and I'd be out the front door puking on the sidewalk because I overexerted.
I'm not about that fucking life, man. Come on. Fuck that.
Yeah. So that was well, Muay Thai kind of does that, when you don't know where to pull back with it, and pace yourself before when you first start, you end up pushing too hard and you're out of breath so much that you want to hurl.
Well, it's funny because I feel like that's with any high output activity like Muay Thai or like Jiu-Jitsu. I call it the white belt spaz. They come at you like they're trying to fucking kill you, but the reality is,
well, and that's just because they don't have any technique. They want to use their strength, and the white belt aspect of it. So they just put everything they got into it, and obviously after you've trained a while, you realize that you have to stay relaxed and pace yourself or you're not going to last very long.
No, sure. Have you ever competed?
No, I haven't. Mostly because I was a professional singer, and my wife talked me out of it. She said, what happens when you get hit in the nose and the throat? I'm like, well, it's more like when, or she said if. I said more like when, and because I know it's going to happen. It's going to happen for sure. And it happens when I train. It just doesn't happen as hard. So yeah. So I decided not to do that aspect of it, but I got my black belt and I started teaching, and so those that can't do teach, right? I don't know.
Yes. I suppose. So now last time we had spoken in person, you had mentioned that you were doing a bit more grappling than you had been before.
Yeah.
Would you consider competing in that, considering the fact that is a lower impact activity where you're less likely, especially in the, what is it, like 60 and up age group?
I mean, 70? The older I got, the more it made sense, after getting so many injuries in Muay Thai all the time, just sparring. Yeah, that's probably, I was encouraged by other people at the gym to get into the grappling thing because, well, after 20 some years of Muay Thai, my body had gotten super strong in certain muscle groups and was weak in others. And so I was getting injured, essentially is what happened. I wasn't well balanced anymore. And so I started grappling just sort of to work different muscle groups. And
did you not have a balance of power?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And and I loved it. It's fun. It's great fun. You know, I I haven't done enough of it, but I really enjoy it, and I'm still a white belt with 2 stripes. So we'll see, because I haven't been, like taking lots of classes. I've just been going in and rolling with the higher belts and learning from them directly, instead of doing the formal classes and stuff. And it's been so much fun because you go with the higher rank belts, they don't have anything to prove, and they show you all kinds of stuff, and you can slow roll, and you're not, they're usually older and they don't want to get hurt either. So I mean, I'm
Yeah,
57 now. I gotta not get my ass kicked all the time.
it's funny because one thing I've found is that the more dangerous somebody is legitimately on the mat, the less dangerous they are to train with.
Exactly. Because they know exactly what they're doing. Right. Yeah.
Now,
And I'm really happy that, these guys train with me because I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm usually a real quick study. So if they say, don't do that so hard, I back off, but the fact that I don't have a lot of that finesse and technique, they don't get in trouble. you know, those guys that do have lots of technique can just tie me in a pretzel pretty much anytime they want. So,
I mean, I speak from experience saying that, for me, I'm always trying to get something out of every training session. And one way that I do that is I'll put myself in trouble when I'm rolling. Like, I'll put myself there. I'll give you the position, and I'll go right to the edge of being submitted. And if you tap me, you tap me. But
right.
I try not to from there. When you're training,
yeah, especially when you're going with somebody that could use the help, could use the gives.
we got somebody. We got somebody. A couple of people heckling you, asking for you to sing something to bring you some energy. Bring them some energy. I'm not putting.
I don't know. What do you want me to sing?
You happy, Mandy? You happy? Mandy Gervais Nelson.
Need a little energy, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you get that a lot? Do you get people asking you to, just asking you to belt out some tunes?
No. I mean, I suppose if I was interacting a lot and hanging out a lot with fans, probably in like a party sense, but I don't party much. Don't drink much. I got that all out of my system as a teenager. I drank, almost daily and smoked pot almost daily, and that was pretty much the extent of it. But there were a few other things that I experimented with and didn't get too crazy with. But yeah, I mean, by the time I was 18 and decided I wanted to sing for a living, I just said, I'm quitting smoking cigarettes. I'm quitting smoking dope because I can't remember anything. And, can't remember lyrics. And drinking was definitely not helping my throat any. So, yeah. All that stuff.
You're not of the mindset that pot helps. I mean, I know for some people really feel like it helps their mind expand. I don't smoke, but I don't judge people.
I won't argue with that. I mean, if it's not making you paranoid and have the munchies, it's helping your brain expand a little bit, but it also helps your brain contract a little bit and not remember anything.
So, what are some of your favorite live music experiences as a performer? Have you had any shows that were really special to you?
Well, yeah. I was still thinking about pot for some reason. It's a bit different these days than it was then, you know what I mean? But anyway, what was the question again?
Can anyone who's watching set Lance up with some of the good stuff?
Sativa, the stuff that doesn't help me forget.
There you go. So what are some of your favorite experiences that you've had playing live?
Favorite. Well, Proc Power's always been a lot of fun. Touring in Europe was a lot of fun. I've had a lot of festival experiences over there that I enjoyed, and club experiences and theater experiences, and just bus band kind of things that are kind of cool, and um, I enjoyed that aspect of it. I think that I got onto that kind of late in life, so I'd already had a family and children by the time I started touring in Europe, and young children. So I felt like leaving, when I have a 3-year-old at home for a month it just wasn't very much fun, on that aspect for them and the wife and myself. And so I didn't do a lot of that, but it wasn't necessarily from choice. It was pretty much out of there weren't that many options. There were a few that didn't happen for one reason or another. We were supposed to Balance Power was supposed to go out with Bruce Dickinson because we shared a bass player. Chris Dingle he played in Skunk Works, and he played, out with Bruce, and he was in Balance Power, so he kind of hooked it up. And I don't know what happened. There was some politics that happened, I think. Keyboard player at the time didn't want to do it because I think he was concerned that he couldn't pull off his stuff.
Huh.
At the time.
Speaking of that, like that's a super interesting topic that I've gone over with a couple of the other musicians I've had on here. Playing live. I'm assuming that at this point in the game, you probably don't have the same nerves as you did back at the beginning.
Yeah. What do you mean?
What are the nerves like playing live?
Oh, I like playing live. I have no problem playing live. I think that, it depends on what you're trying to pull off. If you're trying to pull off something that you can only do in the studio, right? And multi-tracking and like for instance, my multi-layered harmonies and stuff. That's really hard to pull that off live without bringing in backing tracks, and I hate backing tracks. So I'm really happy that all the guys in my new band, they all sing, because we don't have to do that crap. I mean, these guys can get up there like, the bands of the 70s that every great musician could sing well too. And that is, I think, really makes it special when, you're getting exactly what they're putting out. There isn't anything being piped in, And yeah, there's a lot of piping going on these days, and I remember it wasn't so very long ago. That was super uncool.
It still is.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that I'd much rather do it authentically, or not even have the harmonies. Like, I mean, Balance of Power would fly in harmonies from the album, and Pyramids would fly in the harmonies from the album, and because nobody else sung. I mean, in Balance Power, I had a couple of guys that sang, kind of, but it wasn't like,
Yeah, I do appreciate when bands do their best to not can shit.
Yeah.
As
it's just pretty much, just put it out there. What like when Dream Theater would record all their big harmonies and stuff, they come out and James would just sing the one thing. Yeah. They wouldn't do the harmonies and stuff, and that I liked that. I thought that was better.
It's more genuine because you actually hear what the music sounds like played live.
Right. Which is yeah.
But on the other side of things, you got acts like Avantasia or
right.
What's the other one? Arion, where they're playing everything there, like they have everything there in front of you. Or another one was Shadow Gallery. Remember them at Prog Power?
Yeah, I didn't see that set.
No? Oh,
No, I
man.
didn't see that set.
You missed out, buddy.
I'm I'm sure I did. What year was that?
2013.
How did I miss that? I was
That was
there.
the year they had like 3 headliners. They had Soilwork, um, Shadow Gallery. They had
Huh.
Sabaton.
Okay.
That was that year. It was Myra's first year. Myra's first
All
year there.
right. Yeah, all right. Well, that's probably why I was so wrapped up in those guys and getting them there, and they were late. And, I mean, literally, the singer didn't get to Atlanta until his plane came in 45 minutes before they were on the stage.
They fucking slayed.
Yeah, and then he walked out there with, zero sleep for the last, I don't know, 2 days, and wham, just socked everybody right between the eyes. Boom. It was awesome. I was, I was loving it. I was just like, dude. Like, afterwards, I gave him a big hug, and I think he was kind of surprised. Like, that freaking was great.
That was one of the best sets, them and Serenity in 2012.
Yeah.
That I've ever seen. So back to your label, I'm really interested to learn a bit more about the label. How do you select, find, and work with bands? Like, how does that actually come together?
Most of the time, bands find me. I honestly am pretty lazy about it. So I'd have, when I first started the label, I had just gobs of stuff coming across my desk, and it was all crap. It was just crap, like endless piles of crap. And I'd hire guys that would buy from me on a regular basis, and I'm say, here, I'm going to send you a box of stuff and weed through it and see if there's anything in there that you like, and then let me know. And so I'd have, people kind of going through it so I wouldn't have to deal with it, because 90% of it was garbage. And then it started getting better as the label started making a name for itself, and people knew what to expect from, my taste, I guess, what I liked and was putting out. And they kind of got an idea of what the label was about, and it started getting more defined. And so people would say, well, yeah, I think my stuff might fit into that. And, so they put it forth, and, I got to a point where I was signing too much.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of adequate stuff that was pretty good, but it wasn't balls out awesome. You know what I mean? And so I finally made a decision. Well, why am I putting so much work into all these different bands that are adequate and not something that kicks my ass? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop doing that. I'm still here. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm going to stop spending time on those bands, and I'm going to start signing bands that, I think just kill. And because that's where I should be spending my time and my money and my efforts. So that's what I did. And that narrowed the focus considerably.
So, did you ever have any bands that you signed that down the line you were like, wow, I shouldn't have, or wow, that was a really, you didn't really expect much, but it wound up being fucking insane. Anything like that?
Both ends of the spectrum. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And, bands that you thought were really great and they were just assholes to deal with, So you kind of like, well, come get your stuff. I don't want to work with you anymore. Just come get your stuff. Take all the CDs. Have a good life. And then to the other extreme of, band that you didn't know was going to take off, and everybody's like, yeah, that's freaking awesome. And then you'd have things like you thought for sure you got a winner. It's amazing. It's freaking, and it just was just enough different that you thought people would glom onto it and go, yeah, this is really cool. and it does nothing. Nothing. And you're like, this is a highly original band. And they're super talented and it's just amazing. And I really liked it, but nobody else got it. So yeah, all of the possible
Do you have
avenues.
any anecdotes? Do you have any stories about any of those, unexpected outcomes, if you were? Anything you want to share? I mean, I find those sorts of things fascinating, personally. I don't know about anybody else watching. But.
Well, I think that most of that I would remember that would more pertain to like my luck with bands and personally, like when I started recording with Balance of Power and all of a sudden it just went boom and it was signed in all these different countries and we were licensed and we were on covers of magazines and I was like, what the hell's happening? This is crazy. So I've had those personal experiences, but I don't know that I didn't expect them from other bands. Let's just say I didn't expect it from what I was doing. And same with Pyramaze, after, I left Balance Power, when I joined Pyramaze, I felt like I had something to prove. I had to step it up, from where we were. I had to do better. And so I'm like, well, I'm just going to put forth more effort and see what happens. And yeah, and people dug it. So it took off and it did well again. But yeah, I don't know.
Do you have any releases that are coming out in the near future that you want to talk about on your label? There's the new Anubis Gate coming out. If it hasn't already.
Anubis Gate just came out, which was a cover album, which is kind of fun because it's actually doesn't sound like a cover album. It's very much Anubis Gate, and that's this one right here. Pull it up. That one right there, covered in colors.
Sweet looking.
And it's very kind of 70s looking. But it's got a lot of really cool tracks. I don't know if you can see them here. The reflection of that light is not doing so hot there.
Yeah, it's kind of a funky image. Plus, I mean, we're looking at it from our perspective.
Lots of really cool tracks on there. I mean, they got crazy and they did, some things that most bands wouldn't touch, like Strawberry Fields by the Beatles and Back in Black by AC/DC as a progressive metal song, and Aggressive Perfector and Ozzy and all kinds of really, and those are the ones that you kind of expect, and then in the middle there's stuff that you would have no expectation of, and it's fun. It's a fun album. They're also got another album coming of all original material real soon too, so I'm excited to hear that one. I haven't heard that yet.
Speaking of cover albums, I've always been fascinated by when metal bands cover stuff. If you could see any band cover any song or album, do you have any idea what that might be? Like, off the top of your head?
If I could see any band cover any song, what would it be?
Yeah, like if you had to pick one. Let's say there was one
band to do one song.
Yeah.
Shit, I don't know, dude. You put me on the spot with that
one. I want to see a Slipknot cover of some shit from Little Mermaid or something. I'm right.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like when a band did metal versions of ABBA, I dug it. I was just like, this is awesome. You ever hear metal ABBA?
I have not. Is it
good?
Dude,
it's good. Look it up. Or like when this band took Metallica songs and they played them on cellos and things.
You're talking about Apocalyptica.
Yeah, Apocalyptica. Awesome. It's like, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, things you wouldn't normally think of.
For sure. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
I love shit like that. Like, one of my favorite cover songs is August. Have you heard of August Burns Red?
Mm-mm.
They're an American metalcore band.
Okay.
They play a pretty standard metalcore. They did a cover of Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball. It's fucking superb.
In metalcore.
Yes.
So are they screaming it like screamo kind of metalcore?
Yes. It is remarkably good, Lance. It is.
You'll have to send me a copy. I want to hear it.
What? Hold on. Let me see. Let me see if I can find this. I might be able to play it for you if you want to hear it.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm
not a big metalcore fan because I like melodies more than I like screaming, but you know.
Well, so these guys do kind of more of a melodic metalcore. That's kind of their thing. It's a little bit different. Hold on, just give me 1 second. I'll pull it on for anybody tuned in that wants to hear this shit, because it is something. It is something.
It's crazy, man.
It's something. Just give me 1 second. I'm just gonna swap the stream out here.
I'm just looking at the Facebook place I posted the stream to see if anybody's commenting there.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on that myself. I'm keeping an eye on that myself. But just give me 1 second. Just
commenting to watch later.
Yeah, I saw that. All right.
Wow, that's some wicked effects you got going there.
Yep.
Like,
yeah.
Let's do the time warp, lady.
All right, check this shit out. When I saw this, when I initially saw this, floored. All right.
When it comes to trimming your balls, use the Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0.
You hear that?
Best trimmer in the market for manscaping, period.
In case you're wondering.
Trimmer, I do recommend
Manscaping.
Here you go. I kind of want to see your reaction to this.
The streaming audio is kind of sucky.
That's what I'm saying. Anyways,
you love it.
It's fucking something, isn't it?
I want to hear more production. The streaming audio that was kind of thin and like it was more like 70 bits.
Or worse.
Yeah, right.
Or worse. But regardless, it's just, I think that metal covers of shit that shouldn't be covered in metal.
Sure.
It's the best.
All right. So pick a song. Let's pick a song and let's give it to a band to do.
So I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, do you have any ideas?
What? Yeah, I mean, you could. How about Love Hurts? No, that's too already hard rock, and it's a ballad. We need something that's really, really like how about something new wave from the early '80s? Like,
Have you heard of the project at the movies?
uh,
So it's this project. It's Morton Sandiger from Mercenary and Pretty Maids, Bjorn Strid from Soilwork and Night Flight Orchestra.
oh yeah,
It's a fucking super group, and they're playing covers, and they're doing it like in quarantine. So they're doing it in their own individual space.
oh, okay, yeah. All right, I think I saw some.
Yeah,
of
that sort of shit, man. When I saw that, I was really happy. I'm trying to see if I can get them to come on the podcast.
that'd be fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be fun to talk to them. I know I got Morton at the very least coming on, but anyways, so what are some other albums you got coming out on your label in the near future that you'd like to talk about? Maybe something to push, something because we got a bunch of Prog Power people watching.
nothing.
Nothing. So,
I haven't been hearing anything that trips my triggers, and I haven't been looking really hard either. So it's pretty much I'm available for some really great music to come my way. If you know of any great artists out there that have excellent music that needs to be released and hasn't been already, have them get in touch with me, because I'm looking for some new super tasty stuff to unleash upon the world.
Yeah, I always find it fascinating when like the newer bands come out playing this style of prog power. You don't see that many people that are like, oh man, I want to play this style of music. They want to get famous, or they want to,
Right.
or they don't even realize that they can do this, and it's a really challenging style of music.
It is.
I feel like it's challenging and it's unrewarding.
Let's say that one more time. You cut out.
It's challenging and it's unrewarding.
Well, yeah. Here's the deal. Most guys, they want to play music that gets them lots of attention. And unless they're virtuosos and they don't care, you know what I mean? Which is kind of what happens with prog power. And progressive power metal, it's an evolved art. I mean, I started playing and we were a cock rock band. I mean, we had 80% females coming out in the 80s with bustiers and, all kinds of bizarre get your attention kinds of outfits on, full on. And we started writing songs, and it evolved from that to more power metal and progressive stuff. And then we became more of a guy band. So first, the bucks would follow the does, and we'd have a big crowd. And then we started playing more for the guys, and the girls didn't care about it anymore. They stopped coming. But yeah, that's what prog power is. I mean, it's basically music for ADD adult men.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
ADD in many cases somewhere on the spectrum.
Yeah. And so, the guys that have short attention spans and like lots of time changes and various different things. Girls like to dance.
There are some bands.
They want music they can dance to, and guys, they don't care. They want something that they can get crazy to.
But there are bands in the genre that fit that bill. Like you look at somebody like Haken. I mean, Haken isn't doing too bad for themselves right now. Or, I mean, not right now, but
They've been good for a long time.
Another one is Leprous. Leprous gets a lot of fucking eyeballs. And Voyager.
Yeah, Voyager is because see the trick, like with Voyager, I think that they're bringing in is kind of like that Mirath thing. They have a groove, an underlying groove in it, and they're not sounding dated either. I mean, Voyager has this cool stuff that's coming out, and the guitar tones and the production is right there at the cutting edge, and they don't sound dated. It sounds modern, and it has a groove, and great production and really excellent tunes. They're great musicians. I think that I really enjoy listening to Voyager.
Yeah, for sure. So, one question that we got when I had some mutual friends of ours, we had Jonah Weingarten, Bill Hudson, and Anthony Hamalainen on here a couple weeks ago. And we got a really interesting question from the comments, and I kind of wanted to see what you thought about this question. Somebody asked, if you could see any band live right now, who would it be?
If I could see any band live right now, well, I'd probably go back in time. I want to see Queen.
Bill Hudson said the same thing.
Did he? Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to see Queen for sure. I mean, and but not now, not with Adam or whoever's singing for him now. I want to see him with Freddie in their prime.
Yeah.
That freaking a sold out stadium of people going off. Yeah, I mean, Queen would have been amazing. I'd like to see all kinds of those older bands. Like Queen was like a really big influence of mine early on. Rush, but I got to see them a lot. I didn't get to see Queen. I've seen Rush a lot. Saw Queensryche a lot.
Queensryche's underrated, man.
Yeah.
Underrated.
I really like that band. I never got to see the original Foreigner. I was a big Foreigner fan too, and I saw their new incarnation that is exceptional, by the way. But basically there's nobody original in the band anymore, so it's kind of a cover of a cover band. But they kick ass doing it. I mean, they're really good. Sounds amazing. But it would have been great to see them back in the day with Lou Gramm.
What do you think about bands that do that? Like, you see some of these bands that are out now that it's like there's one original member left and it's like the bass player or something.
Well, it's like with Journey. Journey just fired their drummer and their bass player, the original bass player. The drummer, he's not the original drummer, but there was some, I don't know, politics going on behind the scenes and some monetary manipulations happening, and so they got shit canned. I think that's weird to go see Journey now with half the band, missing, and these new faces there, especially with a bass player who's always been there, as in every video. He's been there through 35, 40 years of the band. Mm-hmm. Now he's not. That's weird. It's tough when you got bands that have had that kind of longevity and success and people go missing, or intentionally missing.
We're no longer with the band.
Right. It's not easy staying together in a band. Trust me, I know. And so I have the utmost respect for bands that make it work through the years and have had, enough respect for each other, or maybe the contract they signed to make it work. Like Rolling Stones comes to mind. I mean, those guys, I've never been a huge fan, but I like some of their stuff, and they're still together as, 60 years later? That's crazy. Like they came out in the 60s.
Amazing, really.
It's crazy.
What do you think is the element that allows that to remain intact? Like,
success and friendship, and some humility for sure. Being able to work with people and stay in a closely bonded kind of situation like that for that long and not drive each other crazy. It's, it's like a marriage to 5 guys or 4 guys. So the guys, so it's, From
the standpoint, or from the kind of scope of humility, again, another thing that I've talked about with just about every musician I've had on here is this super interesting dynamic that the internet has brought to music. And I believe that of the musicians that I've had on here, you're the one that has been playing music for the longest because you're old enough to be everybody else's father. So simply based on that detail, that factoid, how has music as an industry changed since you've been in it? And how has the internet changed the paradigm of the rock star?
Wow. Well, that's a multifaceted
I
question.
know. Is it a fun one?
Wow. That could take years to describe.
We don't have years, but give it your best shot. I want to hear
Yeah.
your thoughts. I'm
When I
genuinely
first started gigging, I mean, in clubs, it was around 1981.
fuck yeah, before I was born.
1981. And I was, MTV had just started in like 80 or 79, I think. And MTV was it. I mean, that's all I freaking watched. I watched MTV from freaking 6 a.m. to freaking midnight every day if I wasn't practicing, with the band. It was crazy.
Up at 6 a.m.?
No. It was just, point. But yeah, all day long, if we weren't practicing or talking about music, we were watching MTV. Because that's where it was all happening. It was like any band that made it and broke there would go to the radio waves from there because that was the new thing. Before that, in the 70s, it was radio and, metal magazines or rock magazines or whatever, but it started with radio. And then MTV came along and shook it all up and changed the game completely. And then, and that lasted quite a while and diluted as they got, into all their strange side programming. And people got bored and the internet started taking off. And, I'm the timeline of this thing. So I'm trying to think, what was the next big thing?
So you had MTV.
MTV,
then you had MTV 2 and 3 and 7 and 9.
Right.
Then you had VH1.
Right. And
Around
all that stuff. That was, and then it started fading down,
And then you had YouTube.
Right. YouTube was
and Facebook and MySpace.
MySpace was the next thing, right? So you had YouTube and MySpace changed the game up a lot. And then, Napster screwed it all up for all of us.
Did it
became a whole new thing, because people were able to make a living at music before that, and then they weren't, unless you were playing live. And then they had to rethink it all. And, because basically all music sales tanked when people were getting things free and CDs stopped selling and, Best Buy stopped having a CD section and
they still have a CD section.
It's this big. They had a CD section, now they have a CD section. And yeah, I mean, it's the same with Target and all that stuff, but before you had retailers that's all they sold. It's music.
Yeah, record stores.
Physical, yeah, record stores and CDs and DVDs and mini discs and blah blah blah, and went on and on. And they evaporated pretty much overnight.
Yeah.
When Napster hit, and it didn't take long for all of that physical distribution to it didn't all go away. As we still have CDs, we still have some stores out there, but most of it's on Amazon now. If you're gonna buy a CD, go to Amazon. So
I think, for example, Tool has done a pretty good job of continuing to sell CDs, as you and I actually discussed back in September when I bought their new album from you.
Yeah.
because the fact was that album package was so impressive and
Right.
so cutting edge that it justified it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, and I think of Tool, to me, Tool is not that old of a band, but they are. They're really, they really are. Because they were around in the 90s, you know what I mean? and so, yeah, I really liked Tool back then. Most of my progressive metal buddies were looking at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, dude, the drummer is amazing. What are you talking about? And they just had this cool groove thing. It was that groove progressive rock metal thing that, again, that, some of these technicians, they don't get that aspect. And I'm like, I love groove in my metal. That's cool.
You need to have it in order for it to be interesting.
Right. I think so. Otherwise, it becomes too stale. Like something you may not have known. I was talking to the guys in Watchtower for a while. We were going to try and do something, and I demoed up a couple of tunes with them, and I just my mind was warping because it was so technical, but there was no groove. It was like they were terminally white. And I didn't get it. Maybe it was over my head technically. I couldn't groove with it. Because I like to groove with the stuff, and it was just too, and technical. It just didn't work for me.
You can do it a little bit, but if that's your entire album, you done fucked up.
Exactly. I mean, you can do it here and there, but trying to put lyrics and melodies and music and singing and stuff over that, it's like if you're all playing together and you're doing the tags and everything is tight, that's great, but that's really limiting too in some ways. So anyway,
we were kind of on the timeline. So we get to MySpace, Napster. We have the MySpace, we have the Napster,
Faceburger. Now we've the Instagram. Now we've got what is
the other thing is people start having smartphones that are able to contain or stream all of music known to man. Right.
So yeah, Spotify comes along, and that was the new game changer. After the social media stuff, and now people are becoming stars on Instagram or on TikTok or other things like that, and you're just like, I don't even know what TikTok is. My daughter has TikTok, and she puts dance videos on it all the time, and I'm like, I don't get it. Because I'm
mad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm an adult.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't spend much time on Instagram either. I have a page and I put a few pictures up over the years, and that's, yeah. I Facebook too much, and I probably need to pull back a little bit on that, especially on my political shit. Leave that alone, but whatever.
You are pretty political.
Huh?
I said you are pretty political.
Yeah. Well,
I think we're on the same page on a lot of shit, though. So.
What's that?
I said I think we're on the same page on a lot of shit, though. So you get kind of boring to me because it's like, oh, this guy just says all the shit on it.
Yeah, it's all. Yeah. I already knew that.
I like. Honestly, I feel like one thing on social media is that people like to get into echo chambers.
No, big time.
And people, if you think that blah 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 is blah blah blah, then you're blah blah blah.
Right.
It's like, shut the fuck up.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's way too much of that crap and virtue signaling and friggin' blah. God,
sorry, we got on a tangent, but the reason I'm asking this, so at a certain point, you see a lot of the figures that may have not been accessible 30 years ago, very accessible and very human. What do you think of that effect on music and on the industry?
Well, I think that's actually a good thing, but it's killed the stigma of stardom a bit because
Mystique.
there's not really any. What's that?
The mystique of it.
Yeah, you're giving away too much. Now you're not a mystery anymore. It's like me talking to you now for an hour and telling you all these details. It's like I'm not that cool. You know everything. You know what I mean? And that's the idea behind the mystique is you present what you want people to see, and then that's who you are to them, right?
Yeah.
And that was how you built stars. You presented them as this thing, this star package, and they're still fallible humans, and just like we all have our dramas and crap that we deal with, and yeah. But now the social media, everybody sees it all, unless you're really careful.
Even then,
Yeah.
even then,
Right.
a lot of who you are as a person shows through on
Right.
your social media, even if you're very secretive.
Right. Yeah. I mean, for a long time, I was extremely careful about what I put out there, and I, didn't want to talk about my religious beliefs or my political beliefs or any of that kind of stuff because I didn't want to alienate the people that dug my music. And I began to realize it's like, well, that is what my music's about. So is it really that far off? If they like those lyrics, maybe, they're going to dig what I'm talking about or what I'm about. And I just got to the point where I'm old enough, I don't give a shit anymore. It's like, I don't care. I'm going to talk about what I believe in, but not, ram it down people's throats and be respectful about it and have communications that are not, stupid about it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I feel like there's some nuance to it. Like, for example, there's the way that I've seen you post and a couple other musicians that I have on my news feed. The way I've seen them post. And then, the other day, for example, I saw a drummer from a band that I've actually been a huge fan of for many years. And he posted this meme of a picture of a concentration. I don't know if you've seen this one. It's fucking terrible meme. It's a picture of a concentration camp. And the caption is something to the effect of, if they told us to go, to get on trains now, we'd all do it. Or some absolute asinine nonsense like that. It's like, listen, let's not. Let's just fucking not. Can we please not?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, people are starting to use the Nazi euphemism a lot with the close down, the shut down, the shut
Whatever
in,
you want to call it.
stay at home, the shelter in place, whatever you want to call it. People were getting stir crazy and they wanted their life to return to normal, and for a lot of good reasons,
Yeah, for sure.
Sure.
But it's not that they're trying to fucking kill us.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, if you want to go down that,
They're all conspiracy theories.
talk about those kinds of things, there's still speculation that there's shit we don't know.
Of course.
Or you want answers to questions like, why was Fauci and Bill Gates funding this thing in Wuhan and the thing, or was it from money from the government that was subsidizing this research in this Wuhan lab? And why were they working with bats, viral things to,
sure.
evolve them so that they will cross and infect humans? Why were they doing that? Those kinds of questions I have anyway, and it boggles the mind. It's like, why would you try to evolve a virus 800 years so that it will do this rather than allow it to do it naturally? What do you?
So, I mean, there's a lot of different possible answers to that. One possible answer is that it's a conspiracy, and that they're trying to kill us all.
Well,
that's one answer.
No, I think a more rational thought is not that they're trying. I mean, there's theories that certain people are eugenicists. They believe that the world has to have a specific balance, that there's too many people on the earth, etc. Right? Okay, and Bill Gates is one of those people. He said it, right? But okay, so my thought and this could be complete bullshit, is that, if you're going to get a patent on a virus or on a virus that, supposedly wasn't existing yet 3 years ago, it must have been existing.
That's just it. That's just it. You've been gotten, because that's not actually true. That was a piece of fake rhetoric that was put around, and the patent
Probably.
Yeah, the patent is not, and that's the whole thing. Like, there's so much misinformation
Right.
that is emerging, and everything that you said up until that moment,
Right.
has not been debunked, but
Right.
that has
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah. See, I didn't know, but
Yeah,
my thinking on this though is that, okay, so you create a problem and you create a solution. You make
Sure.
money. You make lots of money, especially if it's a pandemic and it goes across the whole world, and you got to create a vaccination that everybody's mandated to take. It's not there yet, but man, what a windfall, right?
That's assuming that is assuming they don't give it away for free.
Right.
Which, quite frankly, if I had to guess, even if there's a vaccine and even if the vaccine works, which are two big
that's
ifs.
the big thing right there. I mean, they haven't had a vaccine that would work on a coronavirus yet, and there have been plenty of coronaviruses.
Well, I think that there might have been some for other coronaviruses, just not this one.
So is there one for SARS?
No. But you know how many coronaviruses there have been over the
SARS
years?
too, basically.
Yeah, literally.
Literally. So, yeah,
right?
I mean, no, they won't get it. They won't get a vaccination for it, I don't think. And if they do, it might take 10 years, and it'll morph, and it'll be something different,
Well, so that kind of, if, again, we don't know, because there's so much shit that we've been fed via social media as a vehicle for information.
Right, yeah.
And misinformation. But
no question about it.
But like the point is that if we look at, assuming that there's actually an evolved virus, 800, whatever you were just saying, that might just simply be that they're trying to make an iteration of the vaccine that won't be necessary, or that will be able to eradicate 800 years worth of evolution of this thing. They're just trying to play they're trying to play the long game, is my guess.
So get out and play in the dirt more. Get your herd immunity up. Get out and get dirty and play. Because literally, like, they tested 700, almost 700 in Jacksonville, Florida, right? That are homeless, and because they're out living on the streets, they don't have it. Because they've got really good, tough immune systems.
Or they've already had it, because
they've already had it. Well, wouldn't that show up in their system though? Wouldn't you see the
antibodies?
You'd see the antibodies, right?
Not as it wouldn't show up as an active infection.
Right.
There's two different things you can test for. You can test for viral load, or you can test for antibodies. Okay. I'm actually on Monday evening, assuming that it comes through, I'm going to actually have a guy who in the jiu-jitsu and martial arts world has been speaking about this since day one, and he's called a lot of this shit. So I'm gonna have him on, Stefan Kesting. He owns a Grapple Art. He's actually a CSW guy.
Cool.
Yeah, just kind of random, kind of a random thing. By the way, I don't know if he's still watching, but Eric Paulson was on here before, and he actually started a watch party of this. It's kind of cool. I like that guy. He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Yeah. I've never actually met him, believe it or not. Really. But he's a legend in our gym. So, he's
a legend, period, man.
Yeah, he's a legend.
So, speaking of legends, you've gotten to train with some really fucking cool guys. Like, you got to train with Sean Shirk, if I'm not mistaken, amongst others.
Sean Shirk, the first time I sparred was Sean Shirk at the academy. Needless to say, my reach is a lot longer than Sean's, right? But Sean gets under got under, and I didn't have very much experience, and I had a bloody nose in no time. So he's rather aggressive little guy.
No shit. The muscle.
Sean is a tenacious little fellow. Yes. He
So
is.
who are some other MMA stars that you've gotten to train with?
Well, up and coming fighters right now that are doing a lot of glory stuff that I trained and surpassed me. And you know, who the brain is slipping right now. I'm trying to remember the guy's name that comes in often and trains with us. He was a fighter, a Muay Thai fighter. But the name is slipping my mind because I never actually saw him fight. I've just sparred with him, and he's really good. Oh, it's right there too. Anyway, let's move on. It'll come maybe.
So, have you gotten to corner anybody in any of these events, like at Glory or at in a UFC fight or even local MMA fights? Have you gotten to actually corner anybody?
I have not. That's a lot of the other instructors do that. I'm kind of like the I would say I would call the utility instructor. You know, because that I haven't ever fought, right? That's not really my place to corner someone. If I'd been in the ring before and I knew what the hell I was talking about in that regard, then I should be in the corner. But since I haven't,
It's interesting.
yeah, I don't think that's really where I can be or should be. I mean, I've trained people more on the beginning and intermediate side of it. You know, I'm not training people, and you know, some advanced techniques too, but that's just because I've been training for a really long time, and but I haven't actually fought in a live situation, so that's not where I should be. You know, you want guys in there that have that experience in the corner for sure. I've gone to a few fights. I really enjoy them, you know, with the teams and stuff, but if I wasn't doing a business and had a family and all this other stuff that I do and playing live, I would probably do that and go and hang with those guys when they're going out of town for fights and things. But just it never became a thing because I got so many other things going on.
You got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
You got a lot of projects.
Yeah, you know, and you choose what you're going to do, and I'm a bit older fellow with a family, so you know, you try and I've already go out and play a lot, so you know.
Do you think that once things come back that you might hammer down and focus more on your jiu-jitsu, or are you going to kind of keep things at the pace they've been going at?
I'd like to. I'm right now because training is virtual. It's online right now.
Right.
And it's a little weird. It's you have to train in a different way in that capacity, or you just train yourself and do what you want to do with your dummies and things, you know. And but yeah, I would like to go and start taking it more seriously. I'm biking right now a lot to try and keep my cardio up and lose the 5 pounds that I gained over the last 2 months. Now that the weather's getting warm. So it's, yeah, I'd like to burn off that and then some.
You've aged reasonably well.
Yeah, I feel like martial arts and music have kept me young for a long time. You know, those two things, I blame it all on that, and probably not drinking all the time. You know, like a lot of people party a little too hardy, and that ages you a lot. I eat well. I eat at home most of the time. I make my own food. I love to cook. I'm allergic to onions of all things, right? So, and onions are in everything. Onions are in everything, and I'm allergic to soy and worse, like canola oil, rapeseed oil. Canola oil is in everything, and so
Yeah,
I have to read labels when I go to the store, and I try to avoid those things because canola oil and soy just ripped my gastrointestines apart. And
Is there anything you can do about it?
and onions, I get a sinus infection, which turns into a chest cold, and it's brutal for a vocalist, you know. So
Yeah.
I
Is there anything you can do about it?
not really. It's just what it is, you know. My body reacts negatively to those things. I think that I believe, now I don't know, I believe that the rapeseed oil and the soy has more to do with the GMOs and the shit that they're putting on the plants. It's not working with my system. And as far as the onions go, I think I just OD'd. My parents put onions on everything, and I just, you know, so I think my body just had too many onions at a young age.
Have you ever talked to an allergy specialist about these things?
No, that's a good idea.
What if, I mean, well, I just, when you say these things, like, I don't get me wrong, I believe that it's possible. It sounds like something that's so outlandish that it might just be.
It sounds
you
strange.
need to take an antacid or something.
Okay, so when you go to the movie theater and you get a bunch of canola butter on your popcorn, what happens to you?
I don't get popcorn at the movies. That's disgusting.
I love popcorn.
You know, it's funny because.
But not when
like,
it's covered with that shit, because by the end of the movie, I will have a gaseous cloud around me that it, you know, fills the entire thing. My gut is just, it's just ripping up, and I'm in the toilet for the rest of the night. So no, don't want to do that. And soy to a lesser degree does that, but the canola, whoa, that's really special. And onions, onions immediately affect my nose.
Interesting.
And I
I've
get
never heard that before.
It's very odd. And some beers to a lesser degree than onions. Like, I think, I'm not sure if it's the hops or if there's something in beer. Maybe it's the American beers that have sulfites in them or something. I don't know. Something messes with it.
It might be a sulfur intolerance or something.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's what makes onions oniony.
Is it? Okay. Well, then that might be it. Maybe it's more of that. That would make sense. So. That would make sense.
So we got a question from Richard Story. What is Lance's this is fucking funny. What does Lance's background consist of? Looks like a Batman and Robin pick and some other stuff. Just wondering.
Oh, I just got a bunch of old crap in my office that hasn't quite made it to real framing yet. You know, some first generation art from Star Wars and a vintage Adam West Batman poster and stuff back here, and just weird shit that, you know, I picked up over the years that I don't really think about much. I'm into dragons, swords. What else? Strange things am I into? I like to shoot, but I haven't shot in a really long time. What do I like? I mean, I've got. I used to really like watching stars. I've got a telescope. I like to record. I got a lot of recording gear, tons of guitars, even though I don't play that well. I love guitars for some reason.
Guitars are a cool instrument, man.
They really are. They're awesome.
Cool instrument. You know what else is really cool in my opinion? I like drum kits.
Yeah. Yeah. I got one of those right here too. I got one of those right here too. You know, it's over here somewhere. I think you can see it in the piles of crap over there. You know?
I'm sure they can see it. It's hard for me to like this big. But it's funny because with a drum kit you can always add more components.
Yeah. You can turn into Neil Peart.
Exactly. Or Mike Portnoy.
Yeah, right. It just gets bigger.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's funny because you probably don't hit half the shit on the drum kit, but fuck it.
It looks cool.
Exactly.
I don't know if you ever heard of Chameleon back in the day. They were a local band that Yanni, the new age guy, he was the keyboard player for these guys, and he produced their stuff, but they were around before him. But anyway, their drummer, Charlie Adams, had the kit from hell. I mean, very Neil Peartish, with all these rototoms and racks that would swing out and come back. And then he would always go out on, well before Tommy Lee ever did it. And he had this, rotating riser that he'd get up there. And this is in the 70s and shit. And in the early 80s, he's doing this. And it was awesome. But we didn't need a 20-minute drum solo every night. But it was still pretty cool. I followed.
Like it. Did you play with them?
No, I followed the band before I started playing. Well, I guess I started playing. I started going out as a young man. Like I said, I was a partier, and I had a fake ID early, so I'd go across the river and I'd get my booze, and I'd be able to go into clubs early. And it was still a drinking age of 18 in Wisconsin and 19 in Minnesota at the time. So at 17, I was going into bars and watching bands and learning. I didn't actually start clubbing and stuff until I was 18, but I learned a lot before that. And I'd go out almost all the time. There was a club in town called the Mississippi Queen in the little town that I grew up in Winona, Minnesota. And they had bands 6 nights a week. So you go out, yeah. And Thirsty Thursday every week. You can drink of, you buy a glass and you're, like a kegger at the bar on Thursday. It was weird. But I saw a lot of excellent bands, and that was one of them called Chameleon. And, yeah. Fun times.
Did you ever see any bands at that club that wound up really becoming huge?
Saw Uriah Heep there. I saw Monterey, which was another big local band that sounded amazing live. But no bands that actually made it big. I mean, other than, Uriah Heep was already big by the time they were playing there. No, I don't think so. Other than Yanni.
Yeah, but that's Yanni, I want to see Yanni play Prog Power. I just think that'd be funny as shit.
It probably would, yeah.
I'll bet that they would let him, and I'll bet that he would do it.
Why not? He could do like the upstairs thing where he does a piano bar with 18 different synthesizers. He used to bring out like at least 7 keyboards with Chameleon. He had 7 of them up there, and that was playing like this and down here and up here and all the time. Lots of hands everywhere.
Well, that I get. Like, that actually makes sense to me, because a lot of those things you can like set the sequencer on, you can have it playing by itself. Like, you program it, and then you can shut it on and off and have different.
Well, it was back before you could get a lot of cool sounds in one box. You know what I mean?
Right.
And and you had to have your good piano that had the weighted keys, and then you'd have the B3 with the big Leslie up there, and you could get the badass, tones. And then you had your synths, and you'd have to have 5 of those to get all the sounds you wanted. And now you can get it all in one box. It's great.
So interesting. I mean, because you've been playing since 81, which is, for anybody that doing math, is 39 years ago. You've been playing music for 39 years.
God, I'm old.
You're fucking ancient. Because of that, like, you've seen a lot of the iterations of equipment that has developed since then until now. And you still see like some of these old school Moogs or like, old equipment being used. Wurlitzers sometimes, you see shit like that.
Yeah, the old beat organ with the Leslie. Sounds great.
Actually, it's funny. I won one of those in an auction for like $1.
No shit. That's funny.
So we went to pick it up. It didn't work.
Oh no.
So I was like, here's $1 for this thing that I won on the auction. You can go fuck yourselves.
Yeah, you can keep it. I'm not moving it.
Yeah. But the reason I bring this up, what are some of the things that, like the relics of the past, that are still relevant today as far as equipment goes?
Wow, there's a lot of those. I mean, it depends on what you play. Guitar players, got these vintage pedals that they love, and vintage guitars that they love, and vintage amps that they love, and and some of that stuff is just ungodly expensive now because so many people think they're super cool. Keyboards not so much, but like you said, like the old Wurlitzers and are worth something. A lot actually. And some of the other things that are golden nuggets that are, if they're in good shape, are hard to find these days. Old Moogs, some of the first Moog keyboard play, but not very many of those things have kept their, once they got into electronics,
right,
it's a little bit more picky. Like I think Oberheim had some really cool stuff back in the time with keyboards, and
then the shit like Kurzweil, like they're those sorts of.
Yeah, well, yeah, that stuff was always really good back in the day. They were way ahead of their time, and they had, some of their stuff was stupidly expensive back in the 80s, like $50,000 keyboards and shit, because they're a huge workstation. But I don't know what they're worth now. I haven't even seen one in forever.
So what do you think? So what do you think is the factor that makes something from the past like that, other than its retro, vintage, hipsterism?
Well, so it depends, because there's some like SSL mixing consoles and studios still that, because there was just something about the sound of the preamp on these boards that people fell in love with, even though they're kind of noisy boards these days by today's standards. They have a color that people are looking for, and so people will pay more to use this old outdated stuff because it has a sound of its own that it brings to the mix. And we're in a colorless world of technology. It's become so good, there's nothing that's different about it anymore, right? So basically, I think the things that hold value, in my opinion, are those really cool colors, meaning the tone that it created, that was so unique. It's kind of like an old Les Paul, with the front pickups. All of a sudden, you got this really sweet singing solo tone coming out of that beefy ass piece of wood that few other guitars have, And oh yeah, it's
interesting shit.
It's an endless list of those kinds of things, and I certainly I don't know even remotely, 5%.
I just thought it would be interesting, just because you saw that stuff. You've seen a lot of different generations of equipment.
Yeah.
In its heyday.
Yeah.
And you see what's available to musicians now,
dude,
compared to what's available to them 40 years ago.
Dude, God, let's just say when we started, gear was shitty. in comparison to what it is now. I mean, there were still great guitars and there were still great instruments, but as far as amplification and sonic representation with speakers and, you know, God, it's come a long way. It sounds way better than it did back then. Of course, my ears don't work nearly as good as they did back then, so maybe it's just that.
That's awesome.
We've
been yammering on for about an hour and 45 minutes here. I just wanted to see if there's anybody in the comments that has any questions for Lance. We still have 8 people watching. We've had a pretty consistent stream of between 6 and 15 people watching the whole time. So that's kind of cool. I always like to have people still tuned in when we finish it up. But was there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
I think we covered all the bases.
Fuck yeah, bro. We got a question.
We didn't talk about motorcycles, man. Motorcycles are awesome.
Yeah. We got another question from Richard Story. Richard Story gets on these things and he fires off. I think he might ask more questions than anybody else that tunes in, but I'm good with it. He's asking, what did you think of the disco era?
I fucking loved it, actually. No, I was a closet disco fan back in the day. Nobody knew this because, you know, it wasn't cool at all when I was in high school. You know, rock and roll was, you know, rock and metal was cool. And yeah, I actually liked I don't even want to talk about it, but I like the music. There were a lot of great danceable songs that's what we should be turning into metal. We should take some old disco tunes and beat them up. That's
dude,
what
you know who does it pretty well? Teresa's.
Yeah. Really?
Teresa's.
Yeah, they do. I love that band.
Yeah, they've done it.
Do they do battle metal? That's now, you know, disco battle metal.
I don't know about old disco battle, but I know they've done a couple of songs. Like they did the one song. I'm drawing a blank on the name. They did a very specific song that was it was absurd, and it went not vodka. I'm looking it up. There was a disco song that they did that was truly a masterpiece. Rasputin.
Huh.
They did a song called Rasputin. It's a disco song.
I don't remember a disco song named Rasputin. That might have been a German pop disco thing.
I'm looking it up because I'm almost certain that it was a disco song. And I'm almost certain that they did this fucking cover, and it was just, I've seen it live a few times, and every time it's kind of it's off of the Varangian Way, their album from 2007, and it is I believe it's a cover, Boney M. It's a Boney M cover. And Boney M was it was German. It was a German band. It was West German, and it was a disco / reggae band.
Huh.
I'm telling you, man. I've seen this live twice.
I think reggae metal would be pretty cool. What do you think?
It's been done.
Yeah. But
yeah. It's been done. Have you heard of Skindred?
No. What is
There's a band called Skindred.
Skindred.
Yeah.
Is it good?
They're okay.
Well?
What's that?
No, you said they're okay. So no, that's not that. It hasn't been done. If it's only okay.
No. Let me put it this way. This band has toured the States. This band has done they're big enough that they've played with Korn. They've whatever.
It's like Dred Zeppelin. Dred Zeppelin. Did you ever see them?
No.
Okay. Picture, if you will, a reggae band playing Zeppelin covers with an Elvis impersonator.
Holy fuck, dude.
It was awesome. So he's singing plant songs in Elvis's voice with a reggae versions of these Zeppelin tunes.
That's amazing.
They were awesome. They were
But
awesome.
like you know another band I really like, and I missed them. I haven't gotten to see them. They played Prog Power, DSO.
Oh yeah, TSO, yeah, or DS, DSO.
Diablo Swing Orchestra.
Yeah, I've seen them. They're great.
Fuck,
They're
dude.
super cool. their bass player is so weird. It's awesome.
Shit like that, man. I just
Yeah.
I get tired of bands that take themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
And you see that a lot, especially at Prog Power.
Yeah.
A lot of these bands are so
I've been a victim of it myself. Yeah, definitely take myself too seriously.
I'm sure.
Yeah, you get up there and you want to be, you're in the zone, and you put on your alter ego, and you get out there and whoa, just wail, and be power stance and metal up, and the music just sort of takes hold, and you do what the music sort of dictates to your body, I guess.
That's why I like shit like Glory Hammer.
They're pretty campy, but they're good. You know what I mean?
They're fucking around, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, in the distant future of 1992.
That's awesome. Yeah. Who else is one of those weird bands that has played Prog Power that was
Ailstorm, fucking Ailstorm.
Well, I didn't see their set, but they're just fun. They've always been a bunch of drunken pirates. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
their set.
I wish I would have seen their set at Prog Power.
Their set. It was so special. It was so special. And I mean like special, like, if their set was a person, it would be wearing a helmet in a little tiny bus. Like they had a gigantic rubber duck.
Yeah, which lived on Facebook for literally 7 months after.
Yeah, because what they did was they had this fucking giant, like the thing was about 10 feet tall.
Wow. And then they put it into the audience, right?
Yes. And the audience bounced it around like a goddamn beach ball. It was fucking amazing.
That was the last thing Prog Power expected, and that was perfect.
Exactly.
That's why they loved it. Yeah.
Like it's funny because as much as you'd expect Christopher Bowes to have a reasonably good sense of humor, like as a person, he's a very socially awkward human being. So much so I used some Glory Hammer for one of my entrances at Fight to Win, which is one of the big promotions that I compete for. I'm actually one of their champions, and I used the Glory Hammer song, "The Unicorn Invasion of Dundee," as my walkout song. And what do I do?
Invasion of Dundee.
So what do? I have my unicorn onesie, and I have my unicorn pool float, and I have two very, very large men, like 6'4", 280 dudes, wearing unicorn helmets. And I have my coach dressed up as a fucking wizard. And it's like this whole procession of shit. Right?
And you're walking in and there's a place that people take themselves seriously as in martial arts competitions.
Exactly. So I'm walking out to this shit, and I'm fucking galloping, and I run out onto the fucking mat, still in the onesie, and I realize I gotta take it off, and I run back over, like it's a whole thing. And I send the video of this to Christopher Bowes. He goes, "What am I supposed to do with this?" I'm like, "Watch it. It's amazing."
Did he get it?
He's like, "Thanks."
Did he appreciate? Yeah, right. You sent it to me. I'm like, dude, you're weird.
Yeah. But like, imagine if I used one of your songs.
Yeah.
Some shit like that. You'd be like, "This is fucking sweet."
And he was just like,
Thanks.
that's great.
I'm like, dude, you're supposed to fucking share it. You're supposed to ask me for the video file, something. Come on. Come on. A lot of fucking coordination went into this shit.
Yeah. And it did, I'm sure.
It's not easy.
You had nights
Organizing.
that you didn't sleep thinking of this stuff.
Dude. Let me tell you something. It was before I had a fucking electric pump. That electric pump was a big improvement of my life. Because do you know how
You didn't have to blow the crap up, huh?
Exactly. Those pool floats are a pain in the ass to manage. They're unwieldy.
You were getting a little dizzy before the matches, I imagine.
Oh, dude. It was a whole fucking thing. The whole fucking thing. One of my favorite moments in competition.
You were working on your conditioning.
My lung capacity. Yes.
Yeah, your airless conditioning.
One of my favorite moments before a match was leading up to a title match in Denver. I was in Denver to compete, and it was just me and my buddy, and a couple other people were there with me, right? And I'm in the unicorn onesie, and I'm preparing all of my props. And standing next to us is a gentleman by the name of Robert Drysdale. Robert Drysdale's a legend of the sport. He's one of the very few American world champions, and he is visibly uncomfortable as we are doing these things. And it was,
I'll bet.
it was fun. Because like I make my buddy dress up in a fucking Santa Claus outfit, and I'm sitting here, I'm blowing up this gigantic unicorn and these pool float donuts, and we got these unicorn masks and all this other shit, and I'm wearing my onesie and I'm giggling uncontrollably, and you know. What happened?
What's
It's
that?
what we do.
That's what
It's what we do. It's what we do.
Well, you do that to entertain yourself, I think.
The best is always the opponent's face.
All right. You're going in there going, I'm looking for reactions.
Or none. Like even when they don't react, that is a reaction in of itself.
Right.
Like when you're performing for a crowd, you have one of three reactions, right? You got the people that are, folding their arms and sitting back like this.
Those are the
like
musicians
the
a lot of time.
cell phone guys.
Yeah.
And then you got your
You got
guys.
someone yeah. Got those
And then you got the guys that are throwing shit at you.
Fortunately, I haven't had that much.
Listen, next time you play.
Yeah. Whatever. I'll make sure I get a special squirt gun for you. I'll make sure I get one of those power soakers and I'll put whiskey in it. I'll be shooting you with it. Yeah, I'll come armed.
But yeah, that's just you get your different reactions, and I feel like as a musician, you want one of those three. In my case, I don't give a shit what the reaction is. I appreciate each of the three.
Well, you sound like a creative man.
All right, man. I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was a lot of fun to have you on. maybe in a couple of months I'll try to have you back if you're willing to, if you had a good time.
Yeah.
Hopefully we see each other in September and get to yuck it
I
up.
hope that happens. I hope Glenn makes that happen.
This time I'm going to try to remember to bring my Metropolis album to have you sign it. I was good. I didn't call you James LeBrie that much. I still think you're a dead ringer for him.
No. I don't know. I haven't met James. I've seen his pictures. I've heard him sing. I've got more power.
Well, I'm still not convinced that you two are not the same person because, he was going to play Prog Power, but then all of a sudden he didn't. I wonder why. You didn't want the world to know.
Yeah, okay.
All right, brother. You have a great night. For anybody that's interested in tuning in, we got a bunch of really good episodes coming up here over the next few days. Tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, I've got Silver Fox, the OG Renzo Gracie black belt, and in my opinion, the happiest man I've ever met in martial arts.
Wow.
Just the fucking happiest person. Like, he is the human embodiment of joy. Then Sunday, we've got Gokor Chevekian coming on at 3 p.m. Gokor Chevekian, the legendary owner and head instructor of Hayastan Grappling. Monday, I've got Stefan Kesting coming on. Stefan Kesting is a first responder, and he is one of the people that from the beginning of this COVID-19 pandemic had some pretty strong opinions about this and really did a lot of good research on it as far as like collecting information. Tuesday,
see what he has to say.
What's that?
I'd like to see what he has to say.
Me too. Tuesday, we got Avery Clements. She is one of my colleagues from Jiu-Jitsu Times. She's going to be coming on. And that's off the top of my head what I got for the schedule. We'll be announcing more dates and more stuff coming up. I got a lot of really exciting stuff coming on. I'm going to be probably once June 1st hits, my plan is to ramp down on the number of episodes per week. 'Cause I've been doing one daily kind of as a way to keep myself busy and let myself not go insane or any more insane than I already am. But yeah. Thanks, Lance.
Rock on.
Be safe.
Peace out.